You know that feeling, right? You finish a chapter, you close the book, and you realize you have absolutely no idea what you just read. We've all been there. Well, that's because when you're reading something like sociology, you're not just reading words. You're trying to understand entire worlds. So let's dive in and learn how to actually see those worlds a lot more clearly. All right, let's just start with a kind of shocking truth from some metacognition research. A staggering 80% of students, they just don't do the assigned reading. That is a massive number, and it tells you there's a huge disconnect happening in education. But, the problem actually goes a lot deeper than that. Because check this out. For the 20% of students who do the reading, half of them are still totally missing the point. They're reading it like it's a novel, not a textbook. They're just kind of passively scanning the words instead of actively analyzing what's going on. So it's pretty clear that just putting in the time isn't enough. So what if we've been looking at this the wrong way? What if the issue isn't a lack of effort or you're not smart enough, but it's really just a lack of the right tools? See, it's not about reading harder, it's about reading smarter with a specific framework for analysis. Okay, so let's build that framework. I want you to think of this as your new sociological toolkit. With these tools, we can move beyond just, decoding words on a page and start decoding the complex social systems that are hidden right inside them. The first and, honestly, the most important tool in the kit is the sociological imagination. It's a concept from C. Wright Mills, and it's basically a superpower. It's the ability to see the connection between your own personal life, your biography, and the huge sweep of society and history. It's about getting that your individual story is part of a much, much bigger one. Next up, we've got social structure. Now, this is the invisible architecture of our world. Think of big institutions like the economy or the education system or family. They're like the beams and the pillars that hold up the building of society, and they shape our lives and guide our behavior in pretty predictable ways. And then we have social construction. This one is, well, it's a fascinating idea. It basically means that a lot of the things we take for granted, things like money, or gender, or even race, they aren't natural in the same way a tree is. They're concepts that we, as a society, have all just kind of agreed to believe in. And because we believe in them, they have very, very real power and very real consequences. So let's quickly recap our new toolkit. We've got the sociological imagination to connect our personal lives to those bigger social forces. We've got social structure to see that invisible framework of society, and social construction to understand how we actually create our own realities. We've also got norms and values. Those are the unwritten rules and shared beliefs that guide how we act. And finally, there's that constant tension between our own choices, our agency, and the social structures that limit those choices. It's this never-ending push and pull between individual freedom and societal pressure. Okay. Now for the fun part. Let's put these tools to work. And honestly, there is no better place to test them out than in the world of Octavia Butler's absolute masterpiece, Parable of the Sower. It's a novel of sociological science fiction that, frankly, feels more relevant with every passing day. Butler herself actually said this about the book. She wasn't just making up some dystopian future out of thin air. No, she was projecting the social problems of her time, which is really our time, forward. This quote is such a powerful reminder that the world she built in her novel is a direct reflection of our own society. And get this, the book, which was written way back in 1993, is set in 2024. Yeah, it shows a California that's been ravaged by climate change, extreme economic inequality, and the total failure of state institutions. Our main character, Lauren, is living in this walled-off community, just trying to survive the chaos outside. Now, to analyze this world, we can use a really simple but incredibly powerful method. For any event that happens in the story, we just ask 3 questions. First, what happened? That's the basic plot. Second, what does it show us? This is the social pattern, what it reveals about the society that's falling apart. And third, what does our character learn? This is the meaning she takes away from it. So let's apply this to the really tragic story of Lauren's brother, Keith. Okay, so from a structural functionalist view, you'd focus on the breakdown of institutions. The economy fails, so crime goes up as a dysfunctional result. But a conflict theorist would see it differently. They'd focus on power and inequality, and they'd argue that Keith turns to crime because the whole system is rigged against him. And then a symbolic interactionist would zoom in even closer. They'd look at his personal experiences to see how he learns to be a criminal, and how the meaning of everything, like being able to read, totally changes in this violent new world. And this just brilliantly shows you the power of using theory. This exact kind of multi-lens framework, it's not just for analyzing books.
This is how sociologists diagnose real-world social problems. They look at them from all these different angles to get the full picture.
The book also does a great job of showing how different people react to the exact same collapsing social structure. So you've got Lauren, who sees the brutal truth and believes they have to adapt right now and build something totally new. But her father, the Reverend, his priority is social stability. He's hoping to preserve whatever's left. Now, neither of them is wrong. They're both rational responses, just born from the same crisis. So how does this all come together? Look, this was never just about getting better at reading a novel. It's about taking these tools off the page and starting to use them to see your own world in a completely new way. So here's the crucial point, the main takeaway. This isn't just about books. We've given you a new way of seeing. This sociological toolkit lets you look right past the surface of everyday life and understand the deeper forces and structures that are always at play. And with this lens, you can start to identify and analyze all those invisible social structures that shape our lives. Things like institutional racism, patriarchy, social class, gender construction, these are no longer just abstract terms you hear about. They become visible, analyzable patterns in the world all around you. So I'll leave you with this question. Now that you have the toolkit, now that you know what to look for, what invisible social structures, what patterns, what connections between your personal life and these bigger public issues can you see in your own world?